Good morning. Have you ever felt like you've made a sacrifice in your life and it was misconstrued and misunderstood? Maybe you gave something up that you didn't want to give up, but you did it for the good of someone else. Or you did it because you wanted to please God. Maybe you did it because you thought that's what you were supposed to do. That's what the culture around you said you were supposed to do. And then did you find that the sacrifice was misconstrued? The people around you didn't believe it was a sacrifice, and they interpreted your actions as selfishness, stepping outside of the will of God, doing wrong. This morning I was reading about Sarah and Abram in Genesis chapter 15 and 16, and the Lord had promised them a child. Sarah had a slave woman, Hagar, and the typical reading of this is Sarah got impatient waiting for the Lord. So she gave Hagar to her husband and said, "Here, have sex with my slave girl, and we shall have a son." And that's one reading of it. I don't think that that's an incorrect reading of it. In fact, if we go back to Galatians chapter 4, Paul's writing and he says, "Tell me, you who desire to be under the law, do you not hear the law? For it is written that Abraham had two sons, the one by a bondwoman, the other by a free woman. But he who was of the bondwoman was born according to the flesh, and he of the free woman through promise." So that verse right there, a lot of Christian theology has been built on, where Paul says he was born of the flesh, meaning Sarah stepped out, it wasn't of the spirit. But the next verse, verse 24, says, which things are symbolic, which means maybe it's not as clear-cut as we think. So if we go back into the account in Genesis, we see that Sarah, she's still called Sarai, said to Abram in chapter 16, verse 2, "See now, the Lord has restrained me from bearing children. Please go into my maid. Perhaps I shall obtain children by her." And Abram heeded the voice of Sarai. What's interesting here is that some Jewish midrashic texts, which are texts that are in the Talmud of the Jewish tradition and other texts, they say that there's a different interpretation of this. First of all, it was culturally acceptable and even expected that when a woman couldn't bear children, that she would give her maidservants to her husband to bear children for her. So that's something that was expected. The second thing that the Jewish midrashic texts indicate is that her maidservant wasn't any maidservant. Her maidservant was given to her when Abraham took her and told the king that she was his sister. And then the king said, "Oh, okay, she looks pretty good. I'm going to take her for my wife." When the king realized his error, he gave Sarah back to Abraham with Hagar as a mode of apology and making restitution. And the texts indicate that Hagar was actually his daughter. The king gave Abraham his daughter as a maidservant for Sarah. That's pretty incredible when you think about it. Making restitution, giving your child. I don't know, maybe that theme runs through the Bible. So if Sarah gave Hagar to Abram willingly, I wonder if that wasn't a sacrifice. I wonder if, now the name Sarah actually means princess, but she wasn't a princess. Hagar really might have been. If she gave Hagar to Abraham and said, here, I wonder what kind of a sacrifice that is. If she looked at the prevailing culture around her and said, this is how you do it, I'm going to make this great sacrifice. I am going to bear a son through this woman. What a beautiful thing. She surrendered what she most loved. Her husband, the thought of bearing a child, and gave that up. But we read over in Galatians that was of the flesh. If we keep reading, I'll get you more in just a minute, baby.
No.
If we keep reading in chapter 16, we see in verse 4, so Abram went into Hagar, and she conceived. And when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress became despised in her eyes. She got haughty. I'm the princess. I was the maidservant, and now I am the mother. So Sarai told Abram to cast him out. But even when Sarai told Abram to cast Hagar out, and even when she was cast out, the Lord came to her in the wilderness. And he told her to return and submit to her mistress. And then she called the name of the Lord who spoke to her. This is all one word in English. There's dashes between, indicating this is one Hebrew word. You are the God who sees. For she said, have I also here seen him who sees me? So I just want to encourage you this morning, or whatever time you're watching this video, that the Lord sees you. He understands the motives of your heart, even if nobody else does. He sees the sacrifice that you have made, and he is well pleased. Nowhere in Scripture does he then chastise Sarai for her actions here. Now, he does chastise Abraham for his actions for letting a king take Sarah from him twice. So his silence here indicates something. I'll let you think on what his silence about Sarah's behavior indicates. But maybe the silence that you're receiving after making a genuine sacrifice and being misunderstood isn't supposed to be conviction. It's definitely not supposed to be condemnation. It might be understanding from the Lord, because he sees all. He is the God who sees you. His Spirit knows. You are not alone.